An iron race the mountain cliffs maintain, foes to the gentler genius of the plain. Who while their rocky ramparts round they see, the rough abode of wanton liberty, as lawless force from confidence will grow, insult the plenty of the valleys below. Gray. What made ye say late, said Mr. Jarvie, as I entered the dining parlour of that honest gentleman, it is chat pit in the best fico 5 minutes by gain. Matty has been twice at the door why the dinner, and will for you it was a tup's head, for that canna suffer by delay. A sheep's head our muckle boiled is rank poison, as my worthy father used to say he liketh the lug o' ane wheel, honest man. I made a suitable apology for my breach of punctuality, and was soon seated at table, where Mr. Jarvie presided with great glee and hospitality, compelling, however, Owen and myself to do rather more justice to the Scottish dainties with which his board was charged, than was quite agreeable to our southern palates. I escaped pretty well, from having those habits of society which enable one to elude this species of well-meant persecution. But it was ridiculous enough to see Owen, whose ideas of politeness were more rigorous and formal, and who was willing, in all acts of lawful compliance, to evince his respect for the friend of the firm, eating with rueful complaisance mouthful after mouthful of singed wool, and pronouncing it excellent, in a tone in which disgust almost overpowered civility. When the cloth was removed, Mr. Jarvie compounded with his own hands a very small bowl of brandy punch, the first which I had ever the fortune to see. The limes, he assured us, were from his own little farm yonder awa, indicating the West Indies with a knowing shrug of his shoulders, and he had learned the art of composing the liquor from old Captain Coffinkey, who acquired it, he added in a whisper, as maist folk thought, among the buccaneers. But it's excellent liquor, said he, helping us round, and good ware has aften come frae a wicked market. And as for Captain Coffinkey, he was a decent man when I kent him, only he used to swear awfully, but he's dead, and gane to his account, and I trust he's accepted. We found the liquor exceedingly palatable, and it led to a long conversation between Owen and our host on the opening which the Union had afforded to trade between Glasgow and the British colonies in America and the West Indies, and on the facilities which Glasgow possessed of making up sortable cargoes for that market. Mr. Jarvie answered some objection which Owen made on the difficulty of sorting a cargo for America, without buying from England, with vehemence and volubility. Not, sir, we stand on our own bottom, we pickle in our own pocknook, we hae our sterling serges, Musselburgh stuffs, Aberdeen hose, Edinburgh shalloons, and the like, for our woolen or worsted goods, and we hae linens of a kinds better and cheaper than you hae in Lunnon itself, and we can buy your North o' England wares, as Manchester wares, Sheffield wares, and Newcastle earthenware, as cheap as you can at Liverpool, and we are making a fair spell at cottons and muslins. Let every herring hing by its own head, and every sheep by its own shank, and ye'll find, sir, us Glasgow folk know us ae far a hint but what we may followed. This is but poor entertainment for you, Mr. Osbaldistone, observing that I had been for some time silent, but ye ken cadgers maun I be speaking about cart saddles. I apologized, alleging the painful circumstances of my own situation, and the singular adventures of the morning, as the causes of my abstraction and absence of mind. In this manner I gained what I sought, an opportunity of telling my story distinctly and without interruption. I only omitted mentioning the wound I had received, which I did not think worthy of notice. Mr. Jarvie listened with great attention and apparent interest, twinkling his little grey eyes, taking snuff, and only interrupting me by brief interjections. When I came to the account of the rencounter, at which Owen folded his hands and cast up his eyes to heaven, the very image of woeful surprise, Mr. Jarvie broke in upon the narration with rang now, clean rang, to draw a sword on your kinsman is inhibited by the laws o' God and man, and to draw a sword on the streets of a royal burgh is punishable by fine and imprisonment, and the college yards are nae better privileged, they should be a place of peace and quietness, I trow. The college didna get good L600 a year out o' bishops' rents, sorrow afa the brood o' bishops and their rents too, nor yet Aliso, the archbishopric o' Glasgow the sell out, that they sold let folk toolsy in their yards, or the wild Collins bicker their wise snobbies as they whiles do, that when Matty and I gie through, we are fain to make a bacon a bow, or run the risk o' our harns being knocked out, it sall be looked to. But come awa why your tale, what fell neist? The boys in Scotland used formerly to make a sort of saturnalia in a snowstorm, by pelting passengers with snowballs. But those exposed to that annoyance were excused from it on the easy penalty of a bake, courtesy, from a female, or a bow from a man. It was only the refractory who underwent the storm. On my mentioning the appearance of Mr. Campbell, Jarvie arose in great surprise, and paced the room, exclaiming, "Robin again, Robert's mad, clean wood, and war Rob will be hanged, and disgrace his kindred, and that will be seen and heard tell o. My father the deacon wrought him his first hose od, I am thinking Deacon Threeply, the rape spinner, will be twisting his last cravat. Aye, poor Robin is in a fair way o' being hanged, but come awa, let's hear the lay vote." I told the whole story as pointedly as I could, but Mr. Jarvie still found something lacking to make it clear, until I went back, though with considerable reluctance, on the whole story of Morris, and of my meeting with Campbell at the house of Justice Inglewood. Mr. Jarvie inclined a serious ear to all this, and remained silent for some time after I had finished my narrative. Upon all these matters I am now to ask your advice, Mr. Jarvie, which, I have no doubt, will point out the best way to act for my father's advantage and my own honor. "Ye're right, young man, ye're right," said the Baillie. "I take the counsel of those who are older and wiser than yourself, and binna like the godless Rehoboam, who took the advice o' a ween beardless callants, neglecting the old counsellors who had sate at the feet o' his father Solomon, and, as it was well put by Mr. Micklejohn in his lecture on the chapter, were doubtless partakers of his sapience. But I maun hear naething about honour, we ken naething here but about credit. Honour is a homicide and a blood spiller, that gangs about making frays in the street, but credit is a decent honest man, that sits at hame and makes the pat play." "Assuredly, Mr. Jarvie," said our friend Owen, "credit is the sum total, and if we can but save that, at whatever discount." "Ye are right, Mr. Owen, ye are right, ye speak weel and wisely, and I trust bulls will row right, though they are a wee a ge now. But touching Robin, I am of opinion he will befriend this young man if it is in his power. He has a good heart, poor Robin, and though I lost a matter o' £100 white his former engagements, and haena muckle expectation ever to see back my £1,000 Scots that he promises me now, yet I will never say but what Robin means fair by men." "I am then to consider him," I replied, "as an honest man?" Replied Jarvie, with a precautionary sort of cough, he has a kind o' Hieland honesty, he's honest after a sort, as they say. My father the deacon used to laugh when he told me how that byword came up. Ane Captain Coslet was cracking crouse about his loyalty to King Charles, and Clerk Pettigrew, ye'll hae heard mony a tale about him, asked him after what manner he served the king, when he was fighting again him at Worcester in Cromwell's army, and Captain Coslet was a ready body, and said that he served him after a sort. My honest father used to laugh weel at that sport, and say the byword came up. "But do you think," I said, "that this man will be able to serve me after a sort, or should I trust myself to this place of rendezvous which he has given me?" "Frankly and fairly, it's worth trying. Ye see yourself there's some risk in your staying here. This bit body Morris has gotten a custom house place down at Greenock, that's a port on the Firth down by here, and though the world kens him to be but a twa-legged creature, why a goose's head and a hen's heart, that goes about on the quay plaguing folk about permits, and cockets, and dockets, and of that vexatious trade, yet if he lodge an information o' you, nae doubt a man in magisterial duty maun attend to it, and ye might come to be clapped up between four wa's, whilk wad be ill convenient to your father's affairs." "True," I observed, "yet what service am I likely to render him by leaving Glasgow, which, it is probable, will be the principal scene of Rashleigh's machinations, and committing myself to the doubtful faith of a man of whom I know little but that he fears justice, and has doubtless good reasons for doing so, and that, for some secret, and probably dangerous purpose, he is in close league and alliance with the very person who is like to be the author of our ruin." "Ah, but ye judge Rob hardly," said the Baillie, "ye judge him hardly, poor chield, and the truth is, that ye ken naething about our hill country, or Hielands, as we see at 'em. They are clean on either set frae the like o' huz, there's nae bailey courts amang them, nae magistrates that dinna bear the sword in vain, like the worthy deacon that's awa, and, I may say't, like Missel and other present magistrates in this city, but it's just the laird's command, and the loon mon loo, and the never another law hae they but the length o' their dirks, the broadsword's pursuer, or plaintiff, as you Englishers see it, and the target is defender, the stoutest head bears langest out. And there's a Hieland plea for ye. Owen groaned deeply, and I allow that the description did not greatly increase my desire to trust myself in a country so lawless as he described these Scottish mountains. Now, sir, said Jarvie, we speak little o' they things, because they are familiar to ourselves, and where's the use o' vilifying ane's country, and bringing a discredit on ane's kin, before Southrons and strangers? It's an ill bird that files its ain nest. Well, sir, but as it is no impertinent curiosity of mine, but real necessity, that obliges me to make these inquiries, I hope you will not be offended at my pressing for a little farther information. I have to deal, on my father's account, with several gentlemen of these wild countries, and I must trust your good sense and experience for the requisite lights upon the subject. This little morsel of flattery was not thrown out in vain. Experience, said the Bailie, I hae had experience, nae doubt, and I hae made some calculations, aye, and to speak quietly amang ourselves, I hae made some perquisitions through Andrew Wiley, my old clerk. He's wy McVitie and company now, but he whiles drinks a gill on the Saturday afternoons wy his old master. And since ye say ye are willing to be guided by the Glasgow weaver body's advice, I am no the man that will refuse it to the son of an old correspondent, and my father the deacon was not a sick afore me. I have whiles thought o' letting my lights burn before the Duke of Argyll, or his brother Lord Ailey, for wherefore should they be hidden under a bushel, but the like o' they grid men wadna mind the like o' me, a poor wobster body, they think mair o' wuss as a thing, than o' what the thing is that's said. The mair's the pity, mair's the pity. Not that I wad speak ony ill of this MacCallum More, curse not the rich in your bedchamber, saith the son of Sirach, for a bird of the air shall carry the clatter, and pint stoops hae lang lugs. I interrupted these prolegomena, in which Mr. Jarvie was apt to be somewhat diffuse, by praying him to rely upon Mr. Owen and myself as perfectly secret and safe confidants. It's no for that, he replied, for I fear nae man, what for sall I speak nae treason, only they Highlandmen hae lang grips, and I whiles gang a wee bit up the glens to see some old kinsfolks, and I wadna willingly be in bad blood wy ony o' their clans. Howsomever, to proceed, ye maun understand I found my remarks on figures, whilk as Mr. Owen here will kens, is the only true demonstrable root of human knowledge. Owen readily assented to a proposition so much in his own way, and our orator proceeded. These Hielands of ours, as we see them, gentlemen, are but a wild kind of world by themselves, full of heights and howes, woods, caverns, lochs, rivers, and mountains, that it wad tire the very devil's wings to flee to the tap of them. And in this country, and in the Isles, whilk are little better, or, to speak the truth, rather war than the mainland, there are about 130 parakines, including the Orkneys, where, whether they speak Gaelic or no I wotna, but they are an uncivilized people. Now, sirs, I saw hot ilk parakine at the moderate estimate of 800 examinable persons, deducting children under 9 years of age, and then adding 1/5 to stand for bairns of 9 years old, and under, the whole population will reach to the sum of, let us add 1/5 to 800 to be the multiplier, and 230 being the multiplicand. The product, said Mr. Owen, who entered delightedly into these statistics of Mr. Jarvie, will be 230,000. Right, sir, perfectly right, and the military array of this Hieland country, were the menfolk between 18 and 56 brought out that could bear arms, couldna come well short of 57,500 men. Now, sir, it's a sad and awful truth, that there is neither wark, nor the very fashion nor appearance of wark, for the tae half of they poor creatures, that is to say, that the agriculture, the pasturage, the fisheries, and every species of honest industry about the country, cannot employ the one moiety of the population, let them work as lazily as they like, and they do work as if a plough or a spade burnt their fingers. A wheel, sir, this moiety of unemployed bodies, amounting to 115,000 souls, said Owen, being the half of the above product. Ye hate, Mr. Owen, ye hate, whereof there may be 28,700 able-bodied gillies fit to bear arms, and that do bear arms, and will touch or look at nae honest means of livelihood even if they could get it, which, lack-a-day, they cannot. But is it possible, said I, Mr. Jarvie, that this can be a just picture of so large a portion of the island of Britain? Sir, I'll make it as plain as Peter Paisley's pikestaff. I will allow that ilk Peregrine, on an average, employs 50 ploughs, whilk is a great proportion in sick miserable soil as they creatures hate a labour, and that there may be pasture enough for plough horses, and owsen, and 40 or 50 cows. Now, to take care of the ploughs and cattle, we as allow 75 families of 6 lives in ilk family, and we as add 50 mair to make even numbers, and ye hae 500 souls, that tae half o' the population employed and maintained in a sort o' fashion. Why some chance of sour milk and crowdie, but I wad be glad to ken what the other 500 are to do. In the name of God, said I, what do they do, Mr. Jarvie? It makes me shudder to think of their situation. Sir, replied the Bailie, ye wad maybe shudder mair if ye were living near Handam. For, admitting that the tae half of them may make some little thing for themselves honestly in the lowlands by shearing and harst, droving, haymaking, and the like, ye hae still mony hundreds and thousands o' lang-legged Hieland gillies that will neither work nor want, and maun gang thigging and sorning asterisk about on their acquaintance, or live by doing the laird's bidding, beat right or beat wrang. Asterisk thigging and sorning was a kind of genteel begging, or rather something between begging and robbing, by which the needy in Scotland used to extort cattle, or the means of subsistence, from those who had any to give. And mair especially, mony hundreds o' them come down to the borders of the low country, where there's gear to grip, and live by stealing, reaving, lifting cows, and the like depredations, a thing deplorable in ony Christian country, the mair especially, that they take pride in it, and reckon driving a spree, whilk is, in plain Scotch, stealing a herd of nowt, a gallant, manly action, and mair befitting of pretty asterisk men, as sick reavers will see themselves, than to win a day's wage by ony honest thrift. Asterisk the word pretty is or was used in Scotch, in the sense of the German practig, and meant a gallant, alert fellow, prompt and ready at his weapons. And the lairds are as bad as the loons, for if they dinna bid them gie reeve and harry, the deal a bit they forbid them, and they shelter them, or let them shelter themselves, in their woods and mountains, and strongholds, whenever the thing's doon. And every ane out them will maintain his mony o' his ain name, or his clan, as we say, as he can rap and ren means for, or, whilk's the same thing, as mony as can in ony fashion, fair or foul, maintain themselves. And there they are wide gun and pistol, dirk and durlock, ready to disturb the peace o' the country whenever the laird likes, and that's the grievance of the Hielands, whilk are, and hae been for this 1,000 years bypast, a bike the maist lawless unchristian limmers that ever disturbed a douse, quiet, God-fearing neighbourhood, like this o' ours in the west here. And this kinsman of yours, and friend of mine, is he one of those great proprietors who maintain the household troops you speak of? I inquired. Na, said Bailie Jarvie, he's none o' your great-grandees o' chiefs, as they see them, neither. Though he is well born, and lineally descended frae auld Glenstrie, I ken his lineage, indeed he is a near kinsman, and, as I said, of good gentle Hieland blood, though ye may think weel that I care little about that nonsense, it's of moonshine and water, waste threads and thrums, as we say, but I could show ye letters frae his father, that was the 3rd F. Glenstrie, to my father Deacon Jarvie, peace be wi' his memory, beginning, Dear Deacon, and ending, your loving kinsman to command, they are. Amazed about borrowed siller, say the good deacon, that's dead and gane, keep it them as documents and evidence, he was a carefew man. But if he is not, I resumed, one of their chiefs or patriarchal leaders, whom I have heard my father talk of, this kinsman of yours has, at least, much to say in the Highlands, I presume? Ye may say that nae name better kenned between the Lennox and Breadalbane. Robin was ance a weel-doing, painstaking drover, as ye wad see amang 10,000. It was a pleasure to see him in his belted plaid and brogues, white his target at his back, and claymore and dirk at his belt, following 100 Highland stots, and a dozen of the gillies, as rough and ragged as the beasts they drave. And he was baith civil and just in his dealings, and if he thought his chapman had made a hard bargain, he wad gie him a luck penny to the mens. I hae kenned him gie back 5 shillings out o' the pund sterling.
25%, said Owen, a heavy discount.
He wad gie it though, sir, as I tell ye, mair especially if he thought the buyer was a puir man, and couldna stand by a loss. But the times cam hard, and Rob was venturesome. It wasna my foe, he canna wyte me, I told him o't, and the creditors, mair especially some grit neighbours o' his, gripped to his living and land, and they say his wife was turned out o' the house to the hillside, and sair misguided to the boot.
Shameful.
Shameful, I am a peaceful man and a magistrate, but if ony ane had guided sae muckle as my servant queen, Mattie, as it's like they guided Rob's wife, I think it sold hae set the shabble asterisk that my father the deacon had at Bothwell Brigade walking again.
Asterisk cutlass.
Weel, Rob cam hame, and fan desolation, God pity us. Where he left plenty, he looked east, west, south, north, and saw neither hold nor hope, neither bield nor shelter. Say he and pu'd the bonnet o'er his brow, belted the broadsword to his side, took to the braeside, and became a broken man.
Asterisk. Asterisk an outlaw.
The voice of the good citizen was broken by his contending feelings. He obviously, while he professed to contemn the pedigree of his Highland kinsman, attached a secret feeling of consequence to the connection, and he spoke of his friend and his prosperity with an overflow of affection, which deepened his sympathy for his misfortunes, and his regret for their consequences.
Thus tempted and urged by despair, said I, seeing Mr. Jarvie did not proceed in his narrative, I suppose your kinsman became one of those depredators you have described to us?
No sae bad as that, said the Glaswegian, no altogether and outright sae bad as that, but he became a levier of blackmail, wider and farther than ever it was raised in our day, through the Lennox and Menteith, and up to the gates o' Stirling Castle.
Blackmail, I do not understand the phrase, I remarked. Oh, ye see, Rob soon gathered an unco band o' bluebonnets at his back, for he comes o' a rough name when he's kent by his eyen, and a name that's held its sign for mony a lang year, baith agin king and parliament, and kirk too, for aught I ken, an auld and honourable name, for as sair as it has been worried and hadden down and oppressed. My mother was a MacGregor, I carina wha kens it, and Rob had soon a gallant band, and as it grieved him, he said, to see sic hership and waste and depredation to the south o' the Hieland line, why, if ony heriter or farmer wad pay him 4 punds Scots out of each 100 punds of valued rent, whilk was doubtless a moderate consideration, Rob engaged to keep them scatheless. Let them send to him if they lost sae muckle as a single cloot by thieving, and Rob engaged to get them again, or pay the value, and I keep it his word, I canna deny but he keep it his word, amen allow Rob keeps his word. This is a very singular contract of assurance, said Mr. Owen.
It's clean agin our statute law, that must be owned, said Jarvie, clean agin law, the levying and the paying blackmail are baith punishable, but if the law canna protect my barn and byre, what for soul I no engage why a Hieland gentleman that can answer me that.
But, said I, Mr. Jarvie, is this contract of blackmail, as you call it, completely voluntary on the part of the landlord or farmer who pays the insurance? Or what usually happens, in case anyone refuses payment of this tribute?
Ah, lad, said the baillie, laughing, and putting his finger to his nose, ye think ye hae me there. Troth, I would advise ony friends o' mine to gree why Rob, for, watch as they like, and do what they like, they are sair apt to be harried asterisk when the lang nights come on.
Asterisk plundered.
Some o' the Graham and Cahoon gentry stood out, but what then, they lost their hailstock the first winter, sae maist folks now think it best to come into Rob's terms.
He's easy why a body that will be easy why him, but if ye thraw him, ye had better thraw the devil. And by his exploits in these vocations, I continued, I suppose he has rendered himself amenable to the laws of the country?
Amenable, ye may say that, his Craig wad ken the weight o' his hurdies if they could get hot o' Rob.
But he has good friends amang the grit folks, and I could tell ye o a grit family that keeps him up as far as they decently can, to be a them in the side of another. And then he's sick an old fair and lang-headed chield as never took up the trade o' cateran in our time, mony a daft rake he has played, mair than wad fill a book, and a queer ain't it wad be as good as Robin Hood, or William Wallace a fu o venturesome deeds and escapes, sick as folk tell our at a winter ingle in the daft days. It's a queer thing o' me, gentlemen, that I'm a man on peace missile, and a peace few man's son, for the deacon my father quarrelled why none out o' the town council. It's a queer thing, I say, but I think the Hieland blood o' me warms at they daft tales, and whiles I like better to hear them than a word o' profit, good forgy me. But they are vanities, sinful vanities, and, moreover, again the statute law, again the statute and gospel law. I now followed up my investigation, by inquiring what means of influence this Mr. Robert Campbell could possibly possess over my affairs, or those of my father. Why, ye are to understand, said Mr. Jarvie in a very subdued tone, I speak amang friends, and under the rose, ye are to understand, that the Hielands hae been keep it quiet since the year '89, that was Killiecrankie year. But how hae they been keep it quiet, think ye? By siller, Mr. Owen, by siller, Mr. Osbaldistone. King William caused Breadalbane distribute 20,000 oud punds sterling amang them, and it said the auld Hieland Earl keep it a lang lug oat in his ein sporin. And then Queen Anne, that's dead, gie the chief spits o' pensions, say they had wherewith to support their gillies and caterans that work nae work, as I said afore, and they lay by quiet enough, saying some spreagery on the lowlands, whilk as their use and wont, and some cutting o' thrapples amang themselves, that nae civilized body kens or cares anything anent. Will, but there's a new world come up why this King George, I say, God bless him, for ane, there's neither like to be siller nor pensions gone amang them, they haena the means o' maintaining the clans that eat them up, as ye may guess frae what I said before, their credit's gain in the lowlands, and a man that can whistle ye up 1,000 or 1,500 linking lads to do his will, wad hardly get 50 punds on his band at the Cross o' Glasgow. This canna stand lang, there will be an outbreak for the Stuarts, there will be an outbreak, they will come down on the low country like a flood, as they did in the Waifu Wars. O Montrose, and that will be seen and heard tell o ere a 2-month gangs round. Yet still, I said, I do not see how this concerns Mr. Campbell, much less my father's affairs. Rob can levy 500 men, sir, and therefore war sold concern him as muckle as maist folk, replied the Bailie, for it is a faculty that is far less profitable in time o' peace. Then, to tell ye the truth, I doubt he has been the prime agent between some o' our Hieland chiefs and the gentlemen in the north o' England. We ha' heard o' the public money that was ta'en frae the Chield Morris somewhere about the fit o' Cheviot by Rob and ane o' the Osbaldistone lads, and, to tell ye the truth, word gied that it was yoursel, Mr. Francis, and sorry was I that your father's son sold hae ta'en to sick practices. Not, ye needna say a word about it, I see well I was mista'en, but I wad believe anything o' a stage player, whilk I concluded ye to be. But now, I doubtna, it has been Rashleigh himself or some other o' your cousins. They are at tard wide the same stick rank Jacobites and Papists, and what think the government siller in government papers lawful prize? And the creature Morris is sick a cowardly caitiff, that to this hour he dorna say that it was Rob took the portmanteau af him, and troth he's right, for your custom house and excise cattle are ill licked on his sides, and Rob might get a backhanded lick at him, before the board, as they see ate, could help him. I have long suspected this, Mr. Jarvie, said I, and perfectly agree with you. But as to my father's affairs, suspected it, it's certain, I ken them that saw some of the papers that were ta'en af Morris, it's needless to say where. But to your father's affairs, ye maun think that in they 20 years by gain, some of the Hieland lairds and chiefs hae come to some SMA sense o' their ain interest. Your father and others hae bought the woods of Glendisseries, Glen Kissock, Tobernackippick, and mony mair besides, and your father's house has granted large bills in payment, and as the credit o' Osbaldistone and Tresham was good, for I'll say before Mr. Owen's face, as I wad behind his back, that, bating misfortunes o' the Lord's sending, nae men could be mair honourable in business. The Hieland gentlemen, holders o' they bills, hae found credit in Glasgow and Edinburgh. I might amaist say in Glasgow wholly, for it's little the pride few Edinburgh folk do in real business, for all, or the greater part of the contents o' they bills. So that, aha! D'ye see me now?
I confessed I could not quite follow his drift.
Why, said he, if these bills are not paid, the Glasgow merchant comes on the Hieland lairds, way hae deal a bottle o' siller, and will like ill to spew up what is itemly spent. They will turn desperate, 500 will rise that might hae sitten at hame, the deal will gie our jockwobster, and the stopping of your father's house will hasten the outbreak that's been a lang biding us.
You think, then, said I, surprised at this singular view of the case, that Rashleigh Osbaldistone has done this injury to my father, merely to accelerate a rising in the Highlands, by distressing the gentleman to whom these bills were originally granted?
Doubtless, it has been one main reason, Mr. Osbaldistone.
I doubtna but what the ready money he carried off why him might be another. But that makes comparatively but a SMA part o' your father's loss, though it might make the maist part o' Rashleigh's direct gain. The assets he carried off are of nae mair use to him than if he were to light his pipe wi' them. He tried if McVitie and company wad gie him siller on them, but I ken by Andrew Wiley, but they were our old cats to draw that stray afore them, they keep it aff, and gie fair words. Rashleigh Osbaldistone is better kenned than trusted in Glasgow, for he was here about some Jacobitical papistical troking in 1707, and left dead ahint him. Nah, he canna pit aff the paper here, folk will misdoubt him how he came by it. Nah, he'll hae the stuff safe at some o' their halls in the Hielands, and I daresay my cousin Rob could get it at gin he liked. But would he be disposed to serve us in this pinch, Mr. Jarvie? Said I. You have described him as an agent of the Jacobite party, and deeply connected in their intrigues. Will he be disposed for my sake, or, if you please, for the sake of justice, to make an act of restitution, which, supposing it in his power, would, according to your view of the case, materially interfere with their plans? I canna precisely speak to that. The grandees among them are doubtful o' Rob, and he's doubtful o' them, and he's been will friend why the Argyle family, wha stand for the present model of government. If he was freed o' his hornings and captions, he would rather be on Argyle's side than he wad be on Breadalbane's, for there's auld ill will between the Breadalbane family and his kin and name. The truth is, that Rob is for his ain hand, as Henry Wynd feud*, he'll take the side that suits him best. If the deal was laird, Rob wad be for being tenant, and ye canna blame him, poor fallow, considering his circumstances. Two great clans fought out a quarrel with 30 men of a side, in presence of the king, on the north inch of Perth, on or about the year 1392, a man was a-missing on one side, whose room was filled by a little bandy-legged citizen of Perth. This substitute, Henry Wynd, or, as the Highlanders called him, Gow Crome, that is, the bandy-legged smith, fought well, and contributed greatly to the fate of the battle, without knowing which side he fought on, so, to fight for your own hand, like Henry Wynd, passed into a proverb. This incident forms a conspicuous part of the subsequent novel, The Fair Maid of Perth. But there's thing Sarah gin ye Rob has a grey mare in his stable at hame. A grey mare, said I, what is that to the purpose? The wife, man, the wife, an awful wife she is. She down abide the sight o' a kindly Scot, if he come frae the Lowlands, far less of an Englisher, and she'll be keen for it that can set up King James, and ding down King George. It is very singular, I replied, that the mercantile transactions of London citizens should become involved with revolutions and rebellions. Not at a, man, not at a, returned Mr. Jarvie, that's a your silly prejudications. I read whiles in the lang dark nights, and I hae read in Baker's Chronicle * that the merchants o' London could guard the Bank of Genoa break their promise to advance a mighty sum to the King o' Spain, whereby the sailing of the Grand Spanish Armada was put off for a hale year. What think you of that, sir? The Chronicle of the Kings of England, by Sir Richard Baker, with continuations, passed through several editions between 1641 and 1733. Whether any of them contain the passage alluded to is doubtful. That the merchants did their country golden service, which ought to be honorably remembered in our histories. I think sae too, and they wad do weel, and deserve will baith o' the state and own humanity, that wad save 3 or 4 honest Hieland gentlemen frae looping heads our heels into destruction, why their puir sackless * followers, just because they canna pay back the siller they had reason to count upon as their own, and save your father's credit, and my own good siller that Osbaldistone and Tresham owes me into the bargain. Asterisk sackless, that is, innocent. I say, if ane could manage o' this, I think it suld be done and said unto him, even if he were a puir sea o' the shuttle body, as unto one whom the king delighteth to honour. I cannot pretend to estimate the extent of public gratitude, I replied, but our own thankfulness, Mr. Jarvie, would be commensurate with the extent of the obligation. Which, added Mr. Owen, we would endeavour to balance with a per contra, the instant our Mr. Osbaldistone returns from Holland. I doubtna, he is a very worthy gentleman, and responsible, and why some o' my lights might do muckle business in Scotland, will, sir, if these assets could be redeemed out o' the hands o' the Philistines, they are good paper, they are the right stuff when they are in the right hands, and that's yours, Mr. Owen. And I as he find ye 3 men in Glasgow, for as little as ye may think o' us, Mr. Owen, that's Sandy Steenson in the tradesland, and John Peary in Candleriggs, and another that sall be nameless at this present, sall advance what somes are sufficient to secure the credit of your house, and seek nae better security. Owen's eyes sparkled at this prospect of extrication, but his countenance instantly fell on recollecting how improbable it was that the recovery of the assets, as he technically called them, should be successfully achieved. Dinna despair, sir, dinna despair, said Mr. Jarvie. I hae ta'en sae muckle concern why your affairs already, that it maun e'en be our shoon our boots why me now. I am just like my father the deacon, praise be why him. I canna meddle why a friend's business, but I en why making it my aunt to say, I'll e'en pit on my boots the morn, and be jogging our drimmin near why Mr. Frank here, and if I canna mak Rob here reason, and his wife too, I dinna can walk and I hae been a kind friend to them afore now, to say naething o' our looking him last night. When naming his name wad hae cost him his life, I'll be hearing o' this in the council maybe frae Bailey Graham and McVitie, and some o' them. They hae cussed up my kindred to Rob to me already, set up their nashgabs. I told them I wad vindicate nae man's faults, but set apart what he had done again the law o' the country, and the hership o' the Lennox, and the misfortune o' some folk losing life by him. He was an honester man than stood on ony o' their shanks, and what for soul I mind their clavers? If Rob is an outlaw, to himsel be it said, there is nae laws now about reset of intercommune persons, as there was in the ill times o' the last Stuarts. I trow I hae a Scotch tongue in my head, if they speak, I as the answer. It was with great pleasure that I saw the Bailey gradually surmount the barriers of caution, under the united influence of public spirit and good-natured interest in our affairs, together with his natural wish to avoid loss and acquire gain, and not a little harmless vanity. Through the combined operation of these motives, he at length arrived at the doughty resolution of taking the field in person, to aid in the recovery of my father's property. His whole information led me to believe, that if the papers were in possession of this Highland adventurer, it might be possible to induce him to surrender what he could not keep with any prospect of personal advantage, and I was conscious that the presence of his kinsman was likely to have considerable weight with him. I therefore cheerfully acquiesced in Mr. Jarvie's proposal that we should set out early next morning. That honest gentleman was indeed as vivacious and alert in preparing to carry his purpose into execution, as he had been slow and cautious in forming it. He roared to Matty to air his trot cosy, to have his jack-boots greased and set before the kitchen fire all night, and to see that his beast be corned, and his riding gear in order. Having agreed to meet him at 5 o'clock next morning, and having settled that Owen, whose presence could be of no use to us upon this expedition, should await our return at Glasgow, we took a kind farewell of this unexpectedly zealous friend. I installed Owen in an apartment in my lodgings, contiguous to my own, and, giving orders to Andrew Fairservice to attend me next morning at the hour appointed, I retired to rest with better hopes than it had lately been my fortune to entertain.